Now I would like to introduce Mr. Suyog Dikshit, our presenter for the day. Suyog is a primary teacher and an English language enthusiast from Maharashtra, India. He holds the position of TAG coordinator, that is Teacher Activity Group Coordinator under the Tejas initiative. Suyog has served as a state English ambassador for spoken English program and has been actively involved developing training modules and materials for the government of Maharashtra. He has presented his studies in the 5th and 6th INET conference and the 56th IATEFL conference. He works as an INET Connect Project Associate. And as a Hornby Scholar, he has completed his MA from the University of Warwick with a distinction. So his research interests include teacher leadership, teacher professional development, translanguaging, and socio-linguistic aspect of English language learning. So a warm welcome once again, Suyog, and I would like to hand it over to you to take it further.
Thank you very much for this introduction, Suman ma'am. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
So, hello everyone, I'm Suyog and I'm elated to be here on this prestigious platform. Today I'm going to present 3 steps to integrate multilingualism in the classroom. This is the presentation plan. I'll start with the notion of multilingualism and what does it mean in the Indian context. Then I'll talk you through the 3 steps to integrate multilingualism in the classroom. The first one is acknowledging the linguistic landscape. The second one is in leveraging the multilingual background of students. And the last one is encouraging students to contribute to the linguistic landscape. And finally, at the end of the session, we can have some time for questions and answers. But before that, as we all know, today is 21st February, which happens to be the International Mother Language Day. So I would like to start this session by wishing you all a happy International Mother Language Day in my own mother tongue, Marathi. And I would also like to invite you all to wish the participants of this workshop a happy International Mother Language Day in your own mother tongue. So please use the chat feature to wish the participants of the webinar a happy International Mother Language Day in your mother tongue. In my mother tongue, it goes like आंतरराष्ट्रीय मातृभाषा दिनाच्या हार्दिक शुभेच्छा. Okay, so do use the chat feature. Shubha Matrabhasha Divas. Wow, thank you. Do use the chat feature to wish the participants of the workshop a happy International Mother Language Day. Wow, wow. Great, nice to see some familiar names. Lovely. Fantastic. Wow. And I can't even catch up with the speed the way the responses are pouring in. Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone. And just look at this rich linguistic variety we have here in the chat box. I mean, I just love this. That's fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone, for representing your mother language to this workshop. Now let's shift our focus from this workshop to your classroom. And here's a question for you. How many languages does your classroom host? You can just type in the number in the chat box. So please share how many languages does your classroom host? 3, 4, 3. Amazing. Oh my God, 6, 7. That's quite a lot. 12. That's unbelievable. Wow, great.
Look, we
So, I
have
mean,
some
the
responses. We have some responses
yeah,
on Facebook also in the range of 3 to 4. And many people have
uh-huh,
also used their mother tongues to wish you a very happy International Mother Tongue Day.
lovely. So, I mean, all these responses here are a conclusive evidence of what literature says about multilingualism in India. I mean, we are going to get there after a while. But before that, here we have another activity for you. So here I have a sentence on the screen. Please read the sentence and share in the chat box if you agree or disagree with the sentence. If there's something around this sentence, around the context of this sentence that you want to share, please feel free to share that as well. I'll just read out the sentence for you. Okay, I avoid using languages other than the medium of instruction in my classroom. If I have to do so occasionally, I feel bad about it. So do you agree or disagree? Okay, disagree, disagree. Yeah, disagree. Ah, that's great. That's amazing. Wow, many participants are disagreeing. Agree, okay. So we have a mix of agree and disagree with disagree slightly moving towards majority. That's interesting. And here we have another sentence. I try to use students' home language in the classroom. However, I'm puzzled about how to do so. Again, do share if you agree or disagree with the sentence. Agree, disagree. But I use Hindi. Okay. Agree, agree. Confusing. Nice. Yeah, agree, disagree. Yeah, can't say anything. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I have developed these sentences based on the literature. These are heavily influenced by Anderson and Lightfoot 2021, as well as Saha and Rahman 2022. These are some of the observations in their study. And yeah, I mean, the way we are seeing here in the chat box, that almost resonates what they want to say. And here's a beautiful definition of multilingualism by Ajit Kumar Mohanty sir. So, as he says, the ability of communities of persons to meet the communicative requirements of themselves and their society in normal daily life in two or more languages in their interaction with speakers of any of these languages is multilingualism. So this is a definition of multilingualism by Mohanty sir. And now here are a couple of observations regarding multilingualism. Just a second, yeah. So the first one is by Lightfoot et al., who says multilingualism is a norm in India, and the chat box so far strongly aligns with what they say. And the second one is by Meghanathan, who says that multilingual practices are adopted almost without exception, knowingly or unknowingly. Now, this is the unknowing part that interests me more. And I'm of the opinion that if we can bring this unknowing part into the realm of knowing thoughts and beliefs, we can harness the true potential of multilingual classrooms in our context. There was a panel discussion conducted on 12th February on this very platform, Teaching English Asia. And Anne on that day made a nice observation, as she said that it is really challenging to transform this multilingual education from theory to practice. In our today's workshop, I am to address this challenge up to some extent. I mean, I know that's a very big challenge, but let's just try to address it a bit. And for that, we are going to see 3 steps how we can integrate these multilingual approaches in our day-to-day classroom. And for that, the first step I'm going to share that is acknowledging the linguistic landscape. Now, why this acknowledging the linguistic landscape is important? So as Agnihotri says, acknowledging the linguistic landscape is directly related to students' identity and sense of belonging. Second one is by Mohanty, who says that acknowledging the linguistic landscape challenges the hierarchy of languages. Now, what is this hierarchy of languages? Like, there are some languages which are associated with importance, then prestige. While there are some languages, using these languages is often associated with social backwardness. So we have this hierarchy that this language is associated with social backwardness. This language is associated with advancedness, prestige, and something like that. And challenging this hierarchy is very much important because say imagine if I'm a student whose home language is one of the languages which is assumed to be associated with socially backwardness. So even if that's my home language, I'll refrain myself from using that language. Therefore, it is really crucial to challenge that hierarchy. And finally, as we have discussed earlier in this workshop, we live in a multilingual society, we live in a multilingual community. So it is really important to introduce students to this multilingual nature of the community, which I believe this acknowledging the linguistic landscape might do. Extending this idea of acknowledging the linguistic landscape, on 12th February, Lina ma'am has put a very beautiful point that was about linguistic human right. And I believe that it has a strong potential to explore it further. So yeah, these are some activities that I would like to share, which can help to acknowledge this linguistic landscape. So the first one is a language flower. As you can see, the teacher has drawn a flower where teacher has drawn multiple languages in the form of petals. So teacher just asks students what languages you know and writes the name of these languages in the petal. Then this image is taken from a classroom in my state. And this activity can be used as a good GTKY activity in the beginning of the year, where teachers can just elicit the languages the students know. If we are working with higher classes, then we can go with the second option, that is the making the ID cards, where students can flaunt their known languages and their proficiency in these languages. This image is taken from a project my dear friend Faisal and I did for Bangladeshi context. Then we have this second activity. This is quite simple. It's about inviting students to share the different languages and varieties of languages they observe in their surroundings. Like we can show students such image and invite them to identify languages in the image for lower classes. As we move to higher classes, we can invite them to spot such billboards, newspaper cuttings, TV advertisements, where more than one language is used, and ask them to think of the purpose of using these multiple languages. And now, before I share why I consider these activities important or useful, I'd like to invite your views. So again, the chat box is open for you to share how these activities can help in acknowledging the linguistic landscape. And afterwards, I'll share what I thought of these activities, how these activities can help. So use the chat box function and share how these activities can help students to acknowledge the linguistic landscape.
Better communication in interpretation of thoughts, create interest, conscious raising, feeling of equality,
Lovely.
brainstorming activity, know, learn, and respect. Students
Wow.
become more creative and imaginative. Language inclusivity, providing learners with a space to explore new language. Diversity,
Wow.
evoke curiosity.
Oh my goodness, this is
Pride in
really
knowing
hard to,
mother language.
yeah, it's
Some of
getting
the
even hard to catch up.
responses. Yeah.
Yeah, it's moving very fast, but thank you very much. Yeah. So, I could not come up with these brilliant ideas, but this is what I thought when I thought of these activities. The first one is a student's home language gets a representation. The second one is if you remember the language flower activity, all languages are flowers and all languages are petals of the flower and they are equal. So these languages are perceived as equals. And there's the tendency, like if someone is speaking some language which is associated with social backwardness, people start ridiculing that person. So instead of that, by this activity, we can make sure that the knowledge of and the extra language is celebrated instead of getting ridiculed. And finally, students can get the sense of linguistic landscape in the community.
Someone is appreciative of the petals idea.
I seem to have lost Suyog. I don't know if it's just me.
Even I think so.
We can give it a minute, couple of seconds to see if he's joining back. I think he has internet issues.
Yeah, so
His
meanwhile, I
screen
just
is.
read out some of the
Yeah, we can
response.
interact with the chat. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, like when we get through a meaning in dictionary, we try to get to know the synonyms as well. So this will help to bring the keenness to know what's written over. Yeah, I think Syog is back. So over to you, Syog. Yeah.
You're on mute, Suyog.
So sorry for the network interruption.
No problem.
So I'll just go back and yeah. So I was just inviting you all to share your activities on the Padlet, and can we have the Padlet in the chat box, Padlet link? Yeah, perfect. So there's a Padlet link in the chat box. I'd like to invite you all to visit this Padlet and share the activities you think which will help students to acknowledge the linguistic landscape. Yeah, so I'm on Padlet wall. I hope the Padlet is visible, right?
Yes, Padlet is visible, but may I request the participants to add under step 1?
Yeah, thank you very much for reminding me that. Yeah, thanks a lot. So like this is the only Padlet we are going to use throughout the session. So since we are discussing step 1, please add your responses under step 1, the activities you think that can help students to acknowledge the linguistic landscape.
Just
So
for,
earlier,
sorry, Syo. Some
please
of
go ahead.
you, if you've not used Padlet earlier, if there's anybody, please click on the plus sign under step 1 and you'll get a space to write. You can write your response and click on submit. It will be visible here. So we're waiting for your responses. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think they must be typing. Yes, so I mean, I'm aiming to keep this Padlet open for long so that this could be a good resource for all the teachers. We can just revisit this Padlet and we can have the activity bank of which we can find any activity. So do share the activities on the Padlet.
Oh, some of them are saying it's not working.
Really, not working. Okay, in that case, I guess we'll have to go with the chat box.
But I can see quite a few
Last,
responses on Padlet.
yeah. Okay, anyway, we can just go with the chat box in that case, if that's fine with everyone. Yeah, that's fine. Like, even if it's not working, do share. Yeah, we are getting activities. Organizing Mother Day, Mother Tongue Day event to celebrate linguistic diversity. Absolutely. Step on names of animal birds in their mother tongue. Lovely. That's a good activity. Yeah. Yeah, I do agree, Pat. That was a good way to take responses, but I don't know what is the technical glitch.
I think it's working, Suyog. I was able to access it and I saw quite a few people's responses. Maybe some of them are facing technical issues, but
Yeah,
there
but
are
like
responses. But we can have a
yeah,
mix of chat and typing,
sure,
no problem.
Yeah, I
sure.
have reposted the link because even I've been
Uh-huh.
able to access. So
Mm-hmm.
you can try this one.
Yeah, writing hello in different languages. I think that's the activity on British India Facebook page today. That's good. Yeah, I mean, there are few who are able to access. Okay, on this note, I think, oh my goodness, 30, 40 responses on Padlet. Lovely. So let's move ahead. And yeah, this is the second step I want to speak about. That is leveraging the multilingual background of students. So, like Mohanty, Ajit Kumar Mohanty sir, he reported in Odisha, where he have used this multilingual education to promote this basic interpersonal communication skill and cognitive academic language proficiency. Again, it is also observed that multilingual education has the potential to provide richer learning opportunities, and which also aligns with the idea of home language as a resource which is touched upon in the Nipun Bharat guidelines. So when we think of leveraging the multilingual background of students, the most common strategies that are adopted, those are translation, code switching, and comparing. And here are again a couple of activities that I'd like to share from my side. Here's the first activity that is taken directly from Nipun Bharat guidelines. As it says, reading texts which are translation of what students have read in their mother tongue or first language into English facilitates students' comprehension, leading to developing vocabulary in English. So the idea is like, providing the translation of what students already know or already have read in their home language. Like for lower classes, this seems like a good activity where teachers can invite students to read something in their home language and afterwards can read the same content to them. Maybe at a higher level, bilingual books where students read the same text in their home language and English can be adopted. When we were preparing for this workshop, Sujata ma'am mentioned that advancements in technology can be helpful for this as well. Like nowadays, there are multiple platforms who can provide the translation. Again, there are some apps as well. If we just point the device camera, that app automatically translates the message or the text. I'm refraining myself from naming any such platform, but I'm sure you must know these platforms. So the point I want to make is that even if bilingual material is not available, we can easily produce such content. And here's the second activity, which is quite straightforward one. It is about inviting students to express through either of the productive skills. Here I'm talking about speaking. So for example, I can assign a task to speak about any topic to individuals or group and can tell them you can work with your peers to decide what you are going to speak without any restriction on the language. And after sufficient time, I can invite students to speak in front of the whole class. It is quite similar to what we say as like think, pair, share activity, only with the freedom of languaging, where students plan the content they want to produce in their home language before producing it in the target language. Yeah.
Syog, if I may just interrupt to read
Please.
one. Monica Kaushik has put in the chat that they had a few mothers as guest speakers to present
Wow.
story songs to kids in their various languages. Kids and teachers
Wow.
love to attend it.
Wow, that's actually good. I mean, thank you very much for sharing this with us, Monica, ma'am. Yeah, and on this note, so again, we are using chat box, so I have shared a few activities, and if you think these activities can help to leverage the multilingual background of students, please share your views in the chat box. Again, I'll share why I thought of these activities afterwards, but before that, I'd really love to see what you have in your mind. So do you think these activities can help to leverage the multilingual background? We do inclusive parents and teachers from diverse backgrounds and it's mother tongue day. Lovely. Great. Nice. Tejas also says the same thing. Good. Is this out the anxiety and pressure that learners experience while getting exposed to second language? Exactly. Very well said. Can confidence from students who think English is difficult? Good. Story development by showing pictures and ask students to develop story in their language. Good. Nice one. Yeah, so we are already moving. Yeah. So now I'll share why I think these activities are quite useful. The first one, student language, home language, we use it as a support to learn new language. Second one, what Jason Anderson calls it guilty translanguaging. We are refraining from that. There's no such guilty translanguaging happening. And last one, that is such activities divide the cognitive load. So what I mean by that is that, in all the activities I shared, the first part dealt with the content part, and the second part that dealt with the language. So the cognitive load of dealing with content and language at the same time, we divided that. And again, it's the Padlet time, but those of you who cannot access Padlet, you are free to share the activities that come in your mind in the chat box. So idea is again the same. I have shared a few activities here, which I believe can help in leveraging the multilingual background of the students. Now I would like to invite you to share the activities you have in your mind, maybe in the chat box or maybe on the Padlet. The Padlet link is already there in the chat box. So only this time we are going to share these activities in step 2 if you are working on the Padlet. And I'd just like to have a very quick look on the Padlet if we can see anything. I think I'll have to refresh this. Oh my goodness, that's great. That's way more than I have expected. Lovely, so it's working. Language clubs, creative corner walls, magazines, lovely. That's actually a beautiful idea. That's great. Just talk with students and allow the students their own regional languages. Yeah. Traditional food, yeah, it goes into multicultural, intercultural thing, but that's also a good idea, like multilingualism and multiculturalism.
Yeah,
Comparing
similar
similar stuff.
ideas are being put in the chat. So maybe forum in bilingual, dumb charade for guessing actions and expressing in language. There are storytelling, drama, poem, bird wall, picture description in their own language. Talk about authentic objects or events in the surrounding, brainstorming session. All these thoughts are flowing in the chat.
That's highly creative, and thank you very much, everyone, for sharing such beautiful ideas. So, like, I mean, we are actually building a good bank of activities, and if we visit the Padlet anytime, we all can have access to these activities. That's such a nice thing to have. Thank you, everyone. And on this note, let's move to the last step. That is this contributing to the linguistic landscape. So, I mean, the idea is that students are going to be a part of the multilingual society, and therefore it is crucial for them to be a successful multilingual user. They should be able to language flexibly. Here I'm using language as a verb. And they need to be able to use their complete linguistic repertoire according to the contextual needs. And again, I'm going to share a couple of activities now. Here's the first activity from my side. This image on the screen, that is from my English textbook 6 from Maharashtra State Board. And aligning to it, my dear colleague Nandev Navsare has asked students to create an advertisement. And these are the snaps of such advertisements created by students. You can see some interesting features in these advertisements. Both of these advertisements presented here taps into different languages to produce this work. So the advertisement on the left, you can easily spot the use of Roman font in addition to Devanagari font. Oh yeah. And if you cannot see it clearly, because these images are quite small, I do acknowledge it, you can just zoom that in. And the advertisement on the right also have some interesting thing. If you can see the sentence, Thanda Thanda Cool Cool, Garmi Kara Gul Gul. There are three languages used in the same sentence, and which I found really creative. So my point is that we can invite students to create such advertisements or handouts where they can use such multiple languages. And this is the second activity I want to share. This is a rather straightforward one. And we can vary the level of this activity according to the level of students. So for example, for lower classes, we can invite them to mimic the busy tone on the phone, which generally is played in maybe three languages, English, Hindi, and the regional language. For higher grades, we can invite them to produce dialogues in multiple languages. So it's just like we can see at the train station or at the marketplace. And if we are inviting students to create such dialogues, depending on the level of the students, the teacher can decide if he or she needs to give some vocabulary to students before inviting them to create such dialogues. Again,
So
the other
I
day,
will
yeah,
just add here, going back
uh-huh,
to the first point you mentioned about hierarchy of languages, should
uh-huh,
not be coming in. Pubali Agarwal shares that sensitize students about respecting others' language. Many
exactly,
children didn't
exactly.
want to speak their mother tongue as other children laugh at them and bully them.
Yeah, that was my point exactly. Yeah. So that's what I was saying. And even if that's my home language, I avoid using that language. And that's something we really want to challenge. Yeah, okay, coming back here. So again, the other day, as Suman ma'am and I were discussing, she came up with a fantastic activity of 100 words, where uh, the students produce the communication, entire communication using the 100 words. What we are trying to do here is quite similar to that, only we are not restraining ourselves to single language. We can move among the languages. For which age group we can do drama activity with students? Like this does not have a general answer. If you think your kids can do drama, whether they are from lower grades or higher grades, that's always good. And kids do love these things. Yeah, and again, I have shared two activities, so it's the floor is for you. If you think these activities can help to encourage students to contribute to the linguistic landscape, how? Please share it.
So while people share, there are some interesting ideas in the
Mm-hmm.
chat where
Mm-hmm.
they've been using rappers and other things like labeling things, handbooks, reading corner, day, month, weather, season, all these to promote multilingualism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we also have started to getting questions, uh, activities as well. Indrajit sir has a question. May I address it at the end of the session? Higher degree of proficiency in English or rather promote linguistic hybridity. Yeah, we can get back to that at the end of the session. Helping others know other languages, poem recitation, learning other languages, scripting. Yeah, okay.
There
Yeah,
is a question,
emotion.
Slog, if you would like to answer it now or maybe later.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Dr. Indrajit Bose
Indrajit sir.
asks,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he's asking multilingualism might promote linguistic flexibility, but will it
Mm-hmm.
really promote higher degree of proficiency in English or rather
Mm-hmm.
promote linguistic hybridity?
That's an interesting question. Maybe we can keep it at the end of the session for question and answers. I would really love to address that area. And that actually is a big concern for all of us. Thank you very much for raising this question, sir. Yeah, okay. So again, as usual, I have shared two activities from my side. Now it's your turn. Do share the activities that come in your mind that can help students to contribute to the linguistic landscape. So again, can we have the Padlet link in the chat box? So if you have, oh yeah, I have to tell why I think these activities are important. Yeah. So the first important aspect is that by these activities, we show that we tell students this is how languaging happens in the community. And students are able to draw upon all the linguistic resources of different languages they know, and which actually promotes effective communication. And now it's your time. You can please share the activities in the chat box or maybe in the Padlet that you think can help to contribute to this linguistic landscape. And I hope the Padlet is visible. Now we are sharing in the step 3. State. So nice. Someone sang Korean birthday song for a Korean kid. That's so nice. Making students enact or discuss from their own lessons. Yeah, that's actually a good one, which we can use all over the STEM anywhere. Good one. Encourages other languages and also home language for communication and better understanding. Good one. But proficiency in English, it will not introduce students to the lexicon, scholars, philosophers, and poets. It will not inculcate in a love for classic fictions. Rather, it will only dilute the English language. Okay, we can get back to that. And thank you very much for the perspective, Sucharita ma'am.
We have lots of interesting ideas coming through Facebook comment section also.
Lovely.
Very
Lovely.
relevant ones. I'm liking all of them, but I don't think we'll have the time to kind of read out everything.
Yeah. I mean, I just love the chat box and Padlet is turning out today. It's so productive, highly productive.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one comment
And
here, the answer probably, it helps to fade away their fear about English language. I think initially using many languages can help them overcome the fear and lay a better foundation for learning it better.
yeah, thank you very much for that perspective, ma'am. Thanks a lot. I'd really love to address these questions. I hope we have time at the end of the session. I'd really love to address this. Yeah, and how about we move to the next? So here's the review of what we have seen so far. We started with multilingualism and how it goes in the Indian context. Then we have seen the 3 steps for adopting this multilingualism in our classroom. The first one was acknowledging the linguistic landscape. The second one was leveraging the multilingual background. And the last one that was contributing to the linguistic landscape. And there's something interesting coming on. Students that English goes to ghost. Exactly. Yeah, that's so well said. Yeah, okay. On this note, these are the references I used for the talk, by the way. All these references are by brilliant people, and I really enjoyed reading all them, and I highly encourage you to go and read these things. These presentation slides will be available on my website, dikshitsuyog.com after a while. So no need to take screenshots. You can directly access and download all the presentation slides from there. And yeah,
They
that's
will
it, I
also be
guess.
they'll also be available on the British Council website, and a recording of the session will be made available on the British Council YouTube playlist.
Yeah, so now, Suman, may I hand over to you for questions and reflection and can stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions here. First one, while we are emphasizing the importance of multilingual fluency, how does a teacher balance mix with English, given that exams will eventually focus on English?
I mean, it does not have, I mean, when we think of this language aspect, it does not have 1 + 1 = 2 type of answer every time. And what we are thinking about multilingualism is not just about like instructional practices or like, as a principle. When we think of multilingualism, it covers all the teaching practices, including assessments and exams. Fine. So it's not something like, we start doing multilingualism only when we are teaching, and we don't do multilingualism when we are accessing students' proficiency. So the idea is that we want students to be a successful multilingual user. And what I mean by this successful multilingual user is that the way we use, the way we language. So although I can speak multiple languages, it does not bar my fluency of speaking English. And that's how I perceive as a successful multilingual user. So, I mean, there were a couple of questions in the chat box regarding the fluency aspect as well, or the purity of languages aspect as well. I can respond these questions into two ways. The first way, multilingualism is nothing new. We have been doing multilingualism since ages, and we are doing good. That's how I believe. And the second way to perceive this thing is that, how we see language, how we want language to be produced. And if we think language as a fixed set of codes, that's something different. If we think of language as something like, flexible thing, and we can touch upon anything from our whole linguistic repertoire, that's something different. So again, making like assumptions that it can hinder fluency, or it can hinder linguistic aspects, I don't think that is going to help. It's like, it has been happening since ages. We are just acknowledging it, and acknowledging it itself has a lot many social and socio-cultural benefits. I hope I have addressed that.
Yes, and the general concern is, how much of multilingualism to use, and also
Wow.
how to motivate students who come from non-English backgrounds or are first generation learners.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you very much. So, big compliments to this how much question. Priya ma'am knows when I started thinking of this webinar, that was one of my concerns and focus areas. But again, like, we belong to such a multilingual country. It's really impossible to make a generalized statement by any means. If I say that, you should use 90% English and 10% home language, that might be really challenging in some context. If I say, no, you should use like 90% regional language and 10% English, that's again going to be challenging in some contexts. So the better way to see it is that, we as a teacher, we should empower ourselves, and we should be able to make the call based on what we think is correct. And yeah, the second one was, sorry, I lost that one. Suman ma'am.
Sorry, I was on mute and speaking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So there is a question is how to motivate students. Particularly Priya Mudliar, she asks, for students who are first gen studying in English medium school, communicate in their mother tongue and never are interested in speaking or studying English as a subject. As a teacher, I tried all the tactics, but still can't motivate. So please suggest.
Uh, it might be very diplomatic, but I just want to be honest. You are classroom based. Me coming from outside and telling you something is going to work, that's really not going to work. But from my experiences, I have worked in multiple different contexts. I have seen building rapport with kids that actually helps. I was working with a tribal language, Thakari, and I have presented it in my fifth INET as well. I started using translanguaging, introducing small, simple words in English with the Thakari tone. And that started doing miracles, and the students were really good communicators maybe after a year. But having said this, this is just an idea that worked for me. Not necessarily it should work for you. And I'm really happy that you are willing to explore this challenge future in the future. And I'm sure that you will find something concrete. And I look forward to hearing from you what you think worked for you.
Okay, there's another concern, Suyog, that from Shreya Chattopadhyay, especially in schools where the management focuses on English speaking background only, how to incorporate multilingualism.
There were some techniques my amazing tutor Jason told me, but okay, I can just tell one of them. Even if we are not allowed to use the home language, we can elicit things from students. So, okay, this person is asking this, what is it called in your regional language? Something around these lines, we can do some cheating. Having said this, I'm not promoting this thing. And I really don't want to go into this, policy part of these things, because that's again a big controversial issue. Do we have anything else? Yeah, someone is saying that would like to contact. I have shared my mail ID and website. My mail ID is, I'll just type it in the chat box.
Okay, there's another interesting perspective. Sometimes children try to escape under the shelter of practicing multilingualism. How should we prevent it?
By escape, what do we mean? That actually is a question for me. Why they are thinking of escaping? I would believe that it's us we need to support and encourage them, and when they feel using English as fun, when they feel using English as easy as they use Hindi or some other language, they might stop escaping. But again, that's from coming from my context. I'm not honestly sure with your context, so things might be different there.
Okay. Just one more question I'll take before we, I think, stop. Given the teachers' compatibility in English in the rural tribal areas, how do we motivate our teachers for a multilingual environment? Most of the teachers do not use English in the classroom at all. Sometimes it's very challenging.
Yeah, so that's the stark difference I was referring to a while ago. We have some comments where teachers were saying that they are not even allowed to use regional language, and now we are receiving comments that they are not using English. Again, the way I see is that it's about, the ghost of English, as someone has mentioned in the comments. If we can get rid of this prestigious, important ghost of English part, and just use English as we use some other languages, we can get rid of this ghost and teachers can automatically start using English. But I know it's better, like easier to say than done, and it might take some time. But I hope ultimately we can reach there.